helps to turn a switch on. Sorry about you at home who will be watching this that you didn't hear the first part, but sorry. I didn't think so, and I didn't think I heard Amy. Usually you come across that clearer. I was going to say louder, but so sorry about that. Welcome. Welcome. You ever gone to a house in the front door? What do you usually see in the front door? Some type of a doormat, right? If it isn't the name of the person who's living there, it usually says what? Welcome. You know? Have you ever driven around and seen different churches, and on their sign they'll have on the bottom, all are welcome? You know? It seems to be a standard thing that you're on your front doors or on your signs, you always say, all are welcome, or welcome. Have you ever given any thought of those doormats that say welcome and the people that have them there, or of the churches that have that sign that says all are welcome? Have you ever given it a thought that they don't really mean it? All are welcome? You know, there's a story that was told about a mother and a daughter. The mom and dad had invited some friends over for dinner. And the friends all had arrived, and it was time for them to gather around the dining room table to eat. And so, as they gathered in their places, the young daughter was at her place, and Mom said to the young daughter, "Oh dear, would you like to say the blessing for us today?" Well, the daughter was a little bit panicked and looked at Mom and said, well, what would I say? Well, why don't you just say what I always say? What you've heard me say. Okay. So she bowed her head, paused, and prayed. Dear God, why did I invite all these people to this dinner tonight? All men. Welcome. Sometimes we wonder, do we truly welcome everyone? We say it. You know, the idea of the hospitality or welcoming is the ability to be able to make people feel at home and to say, at the same time to wish that they were at home. You know, there's sometimes like you have people like that, right? That's not true about everyone. It's not true usually, you know, but there is a time when sometimes when we have people, we just don't feel like being open and welcome. Today we were hearing in the 3 short verses, Jesus tells his disciples who are being sent out, he talks about welcome. 6 times he mentions the word in 3 verses. Welcomes. Whoever welcomes you will welcome me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. And that verse has been hanging in there on all week for me. Whoever welcomes you welcomes me. Let's kind of unpack that a little bit. Here's what I've come to the conclusion. Jesus is talking about when somebody welcomes you, they are welcoming Jesus. That's what he's saying. Wow, I never thought about that. I never thought really about when some people show their sense of hospitality to me and welcome me, shows that gratitude or whatever, that openness, that really what they're doing is they're welcoming Jesus. Now, I don't sense that I am Jesus, but maybe what Jesus is trying to say is that when we go out into the real world, we who have been called to be His followers and disciples, we go out as His ambassadors or His followers or disciples. And so what we do is we go out, and what we do is we are representing who Christ is. And as we think about an ambassador, when somebody welcomes the ambassador to a country, we're welcoming that person, but also that leader, because he's representing. And so that makes sense to me. That if I'm living as a disciple of Christ, if I'm living with the love of Christ, if I'm going out and treating people with respect and compassion, if I'm willing to be one who is filling or doing forgiveness, just as Christ did, then I am reflecting, or I am showing who Christ is. And so I got thinking deeper in that, and it made me ask the question, in all that I do, in the way I live my daily life, am I truly representing Christ? In all that I do and treat and how I treat people, am I doing it in the way that Christ has called me to do it? Am I being Christ-like to these people? For we know that Christ would welcome anyone, would have compassion with everyone. And so when I am out there, do people get that sense of who Christ is through what I do? Well, I would hope so, but I can also admit that I fall short, like I'm sure all of us. So when we hear that whoever welcomes you welcomes me, what Jesus is really saying is, you are sent to represent me. You are sent to live and be a disciple, a follower in my name. Now, that kind of puts it on us, but then the other side is true too. Have you ever given thought about that? That the person who walks into this front door, whom you don't have any idea who they are, if you take no sense of responsibility of welcoming that person or receiving that person, making them feel as if they are truly welcomed or at home here, have you ever given a thought that that person is Christ? Have you ever given a thought that that person who is a stranger, the person whom we do not know, the person whom we might know very well, whom we don't like, when you welcome that person, who are we welcoming? Christ. And so it makes sense to me when I hear this, and then I think about in Matthew later on, when you get the text, whenever you have done it to the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you have what? Done it to me. And they all go and say, well, when did we see you hungry and didn't feed you? When did we see you, hurting and didn't come to your need? When did we see you lonely and didn't visit you? When? this week. It was kind of like, wow, things tie together sometimes in the Bible and what Jesus was talking about. And then I think about us as a church. And what we say is we truly believe, and I believe this in the core of who I am and who we are, that we truly are a church that seeks to welcome all people, to receive all people. Not because, we're afraid that it's Christ, but because we are representing and we are living as Christ-like people. And so that shapes us as a community. Shapes us in a way that we should be asking ourselves always, are we truly welcoming all people to participate fully in the activities and the ministry and the life of this church? From the very beginning to the very end of life. For whoever welcomes you welcomes me. Now, I always like that thing, it's at the end, because whoever welcomes somebody, you're going to get a reward. We're not doing this for rewards. We're not. I mean, we're not in here like, well, if I welcome or if I act like a good Christian, I'm going to get 14 stars on my chart in heaven. You don't need that. There's no star charts. There's no reward charts. I'm sorry. By the waters of baptism, we already have the gift of eternal life. We already have our great reward. We already have the love of God. The love of God that has welcomed us, and the love of God who knows who we are and who we will be and still loves us. That is the great reward. And with that kind of reward, with that kind of knowledge, it only should motivate us to do the same. To love one another. And so no wonder what Jesus says. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your strength and mind. And what? Your neighbor as yourselves. Man, there's a lot of things that tie together in that Bible. Welcome. Jesus sends us out. We go out as His followers, His disciples. Let us represent Christ as Christ truly is and wants us to be. And when others welcome you, receive it humbly. Receive it in a humble way. Sometimes we don't want to let people welcome us. You ever had this? You don't like to get invited to someone's house, do you? You know why? Because you feel like you have to invite them back. Isn't it true? Well, I guess we got to invite them back. They invited us over. I'm saying we got to learn to be humble when people give us a cup of water, as Jesus would say, or invites us over. Oh, you don't have to repay them because you feel you have to. You do it because you want to. You do it because that's who we are. Well, so this week, let's go out. Let's welcome one another. Not just here in the church, although we need to keep doing that, but in your life. Welcome that person with God's love. Welcome that person with God's forgiveness. For do you know someone that needs that forgiveness? Do you know someone who needs a visit? Do you know someone who could just need a friend? Go to them. Go to that person. and bring Christ's love to them.